Before we get dirty, just wanted to let you know I am going to put time codes in the description of this video because I cover so much gossip as well as the recap. Hi, you guys. How are you? Did you miss me? I've been busy. I've been doing a lot of content for the Patreon. YouTube, unfortunately, takes a backseat for me. But I'm back to do Real Housewives of New Jersey season 13, episode 11 recap and gossip dump. Why not? Why not? The best of the best this week. Let's go through it together. Well, first, I want to start out with playing an interview you may or may not have heard, but I'm going to play a little portion of it because it's Daniel Cabral talking about an update on her relationship with her brother, with Up and Adam. Hi, Adam. And so I want to play you what she said. Now, I just want to give you some gossip I found out too, along with this. So let's listen to what Danielle says first.
So I would love to give you like a positive, happy update. I haven't spoken to him still. I don't know if he watches the show. I think he does. I mean, how can you not? Actually, it was his favorite show from what I remember. He used to, believe it or not, love Joe Gorga. How funny is that? And my brother and Teresa's brother, what we go through, it was nice to have each other. She was happy to have me to talk to, and I was happy to have her to talk to about it. And they're both sad situations. At the end of the day, they're all little brothers, and you will never stop loving them. We will never stop. But at a point, you need to just protect yourself and your heart, and I think that's where we both are right now. Yeah, well, we have different... like her sister-in-law and my Melissa and my brother's wife are two totally different women. My brother's wife will never come on the show. My brother would have been the best asset. He would have been the biggest supporting character on my story, in my story. But his wife would never allow that. His wife would never want it. So he wouldn't do it. And that was a big issue about my social media stuff. They never really want to be involved in it. To each his own. I'll go host a show in front of 1 million people, and that's not her thing. So be it. Not everybody likes the same thing, and I think that's where Teresa and Melissa are different because they were almost like the same person, so it's always a competition in everything that they do.
Right.
That's why it never was good. Ever.
Well, I asked a few of the housewives if they knew Danielle Cabral's story with her brother, if it was like something that maybe Margaret had in her arsenal ready to use. Yeah, because I wanted to know. Well, unfortunately, nobody really knows what happened to Danielle's brother, so we have to assume it truly is about her social media, that they are just very private and didn't appreciate her being very, I don't know, a reality star perpetually since MTV days all the way till now, right? So they didn't jive with that. He, I guess, is okay with the limelight, but his wife isn't. Danielle made that very clear in the interview, so there it is. But there isn't a secret story that the wives know and, haven't outed yet. And so some of you will be happy about that because you don't want any more sibling dynamics on the show, like Joe Gorga and Teresa Giudice. And some of you will be like disappointed, like, damn, I thought there was more to that whole thing. Because we sure did listen to it, didn't we? Now let's talk about the gag order on New Jersey. Let me play you just the little soundbite from Melissa Gorga's podcast from a few weeks ago where she talks about it. Joe and her talk about it.
And I feel like
we got a gag order for the first time ever since Bravo. Yeah, well, let's tell the truth. We've been on the show for 13 years, and we've never been on a gag order through Bravo. We've never had to say, you cannot talk about the show, you cannot talk about anything, you can't repost anything really about the show. So it's something new.
Now, don't get confused with the gag order that Bravo put on all the talent and the cease and desists that went out, some of which from Melissa Gorga's legal team. I just wanted to clarify that what is behind these cease and desists and the gag order is not what everyone thinks it is. All right, so I want to remind you of some text messages that were posted from Margaret Joseph. This was Sunday, February 27th, 5 p.m. Happy Sunday, everyone. I'm so sorry to write this, but Laura Jensen, who is on this group text and I brought into our group, has unfortunately attempted to insert herself in my employment and contacted and met with my castmates, Jennifer Aiden, to undermine me. If you choose to associate with her, please do not include me. I know this is very housewives of me, but we should all know when there's a snake in the group. I hope none of you revealed anything to this beast. Then Margaret wrote this to clarify that when she heard that it had gotten leaked. Hi, I sent that text to a group with her on it, she did. I'm upfront and have nothing with casting. Unfortunately, I pushed for her for 2 years. They didn't want her, so she thought, try to be an enemy, put up the real truth. So this is what Margaret said to clarify the situation. And then I'm going to read you one more that's going to really shock you. So it's really important to revisit those messages. Those were dropped before, I think they were just shooting. I mean, really just the beginning of shooting this season, season 13. Now, what's weird is we haven't seen the footage of Laura Lee Jensen telling Teresa Giudice and Jennifer Aiden the story she heard, which, if we don't end up seeing it, leads me to believe that Margaret wasn't lying there. As much as you guys hate her, it doesn't seem like she's lying because the producers cut that scene out, meaning they didn't even want to put Laura Lee Jensen in for that juicy AF scene. And they are shady like that. If they don't like you, they will just edit your ass out no matter what you do. Okay? So I kind of believe that the producers didn't want her on the show, not Margaret. But that said, I know why Laura Lee Jensen would think that Margaret did that, because she's done it to other cast members. And I'm going to play you the tea about this in a minute. So it makes a lot of sense as to why Laura Lee would think that she sabotaged, that Margaret sabotaged her trying to be on the show. So now let's jump to the next one. Oh boy, this one's gonna blow your mind. So then somebody spilled tea that was on the plane with the Real Housewives of New Jersey coming back from Dublin. And the tea was, so I was on the plane with them back from Dublin. Now this episode hasn't aired yet, right? This is like next week, so this is fun. The new girl, I'm assuming Laura. So someone assumed that the blonde girl that was new on the plane with them was Laura. Well, we know now it wasn't Laura. It was Daniel Cabral. All right, so they're talking about Danielle even though they're saying Laura. So I was on the plane with them back from Dublin. The new girl, I'm assuming Laura, did not sit and talk with anyone in the group and literally sat in the last row of the plane by herself. While boarding, Margaret told Delores that she was really upset about the way the new girl was introduced and how their scenes are being filmed. Obviously, this concept of arsenal, right? Marge having an arsenal, because this is already played out by this point. She doesn't want to be around her. It was kind of weird how they were openly talking about this. Also, only 3 were in business class and the rest were in coach. Oh boy. And the person continues who was on the plane. Yes, a big fight happened apparently, because they were all talking about it on the plane. No one mentioned her by name, but she was blonde, Danielle, and looked very unhappy to be there. Delores, Jackie, and Margaret were in business. The flight attendant said the rest were in economy. Boy, Bravo's like kind of like on the cheap. All right. Well, anyway, I thought you'd find that interesting that Danielle was kind of alienated on the flight back. That's like kind of a head F when you're casting. Let me just say it. So we've already heard from Jennifer Aiden telling Daniel Cabral on the show that Laura Lee Jensen told her and Teresa Giudice over lunch that Margaret had told Laura Lee Jensen, like when they were gossiping together, that her publicist Tom saw Melissa making out with Nick Barada in the backseat of a car. And that was that. Okay. Now, Margaret says that she never said that to Laura Lee Jensen, that all she said was something to the effect of, wouldn't it be something if Melissa hooked up with Nick Barada at some point, and was gossiping like that, but didn't tell a story. Okay? Behind the Velvet Rope had Laura Lee Jensen on the podcast, and Kim D and David asked her some questions. And one of the things that came out was that Kim D had received some leaked DMs between Melissa Gorga and Margaret Josephs, basically agreeing a plan that they're going to stick together, and that way it will appear that this is all a lie. I'll let her tell you this.
David, Laura, I told you this. David got a text the other night from Margaret, and she mentioned my name. And she also said that she doesn't believe that her employees, any of her employees, would ever reach out to me. They would never get involved in the show, and they would never reach out to me. And she said, and they all work for her. Now, I know there's a few of the girls that do not work for her. One's back in Canada. The other one, I don't know what her name was. I wasn't too privy to it. Let me go into it. For taking me 2 seconds to talk about this, but the girls that reached out to me created a Finsta account because it seems to me like people are scared to death of her, especially these girls that work for her, whatever. And they were telling me all these things on the picture of the text between Melissa and her that she had one of the girls take over her shoulder to show that Melissa said, you know, we're going to keep this a secret, no shit, blah, 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 about the making out in the back of the car. So, she's kind of like coming at me saying, you know, none of my employees would ever reach out to you. Well, I don't think she has a tab on all her employees. I don't think all those girls still work for her, which you and I had discussed. We haven't seen some of them. One went back to Canada. The other one, we don't know. So I'm here to say that, yes, I did not know exactly which ones reached out. 2, she has no idea what her employees would do or what they wouldn't do, especially the way she treats some of them. And 3, now that she brought my name into it and kind of underlyingly threatened David, who happens to be like a brother of mine, like I said before, if she
I'm so confused because Margaret and David and Kim were friends, and Margaret invited David and Kim to like that party we saw last year. Like all the times you see David Yontef in New Jersey on the show, and people are like, look, they were invited by Margaret. So what the hell has happened between these people? I'm like, why? I don't understand. What is going on here? Ooh, betrayal. Betrayal amongst the peeps.
Said before, if she wants to get ugly, I get uglier. So there will be investigating on my part. I would, even if I knew the girl's name who
just
reached
what
out
the
to me,
hell
I
does the
certainly
text
wouldn't
say?
say it, okay? But they did reach out to me. They did DM me, and they used a Finsta account, and they told me it was a Finsta account because they were afraid of her.
Okay, what did the text say? Kim,
so with that said, she is diabolical. She knows her shit. She's diabolical, and she holds on to things.
Of course, and one of those women who
still don't know what the text said that she got from the employee. Laura Lee Jensen said that Margaret said that there's only SHIT at Envy. You don't want anything from there, that the Gorgas don't pay their bills. And then, of course, this rumor that Tom Lerna saw Melissa Gorga making out in the backseat of a car after a celebrity event with Nick Barota, or Baretta. I don't know how you pronounce it. There he is in all his glory. He was engaged at the time, by the way, that this allegedly occurred. Now he's married. And Nick was a good friend of Melissa and Margaret and everybody. So he was in their little crew. Now, Nick did celebrity endorsement deals for Margaret and Melissa. Endorsement. Actually, it wasn't totally endorsements. It was more like reality star appearances they got paid for. So that might explain, you know, Nick being around so much Melissa and Margaret, because he was actually giving them revenue. Anyway, Laura Lee Jensen believes that the reason Melissa didn't turn on Margaret after all this is if she did, it would make it look like it's true. And so she needed to keep Margaret close so that she wouldn't totally turn on Melissa and make it worse. She just wanted it to kind of go away. And this was the best way to do it. That's the gossip. Now, I choose not to believe that Melissa kissed Nick in the back of the car because I actually think it would be very upsetting for Joe Gorga, and I don't want anything bad to happen in their relationship. So I'm going to go with nothing happened. So Kim D and Laura Lee Jensen played a game. Kim D shouted out the name of a cast member, and Laura Lee Jensen said what Margaret said behind that cast member's back. Of course, they chose her friends. Now here's what Laura Lee said, and it's shocking. She started with Margaret's friend, Jackie Goldschneider.
She fucks her husband with a t-shirt on.
I can't. Well, first of all, I think that's sexy, okay? But I don't think she meant it that way. How did you think, or how did Margaret, why would she say that?
Just in her usual condescending, knocking her castmates' way. That's just what she does. You know, they think she's so true to them, but she would flat out tell me that she would go to Bravo executives and say, Jackie's weak. She's emotional. She's not cut out to be on this show. I mean, she told me she said it. These people know that it was said. So, you know, Jackie doesn't want to believe it. I've been told that she's been confronted with it, and she says, no, she's just making this stuff up.
Okay, I know that you knew the executives' names, and you threw them out to Teresa, and she said, yes, they are executives' names. How would you know them? And why would Teresa say, yes, they are execs? Who would tell Laura? Did some little fairy come down and tell her? No. I mean, girls, open up your eyes.
Started the whole rumor about Jackie and Evan.
Yeah, I believe that too.
She told me. I knew of it long before it was on the show.
Wow. How long before you think you knew?
It was probably like 2 seasons before, and her, you know, telling me that Jackie and her sister had a terrible relationship, and she was thinking they might bring the sister on, and because the sister, I think, apparently knew this girl at the gym, there was a lot going on. And these are things that she said. And, you know, she gets demoted to a friend, and, you know, she told me she thought Jennifer was going to get fired. She said she told executives that nobody wanted to film with Jennifer. You're trying to get someone fired.
Unbelievable.
She did not start the rumor. She spread the rumor.
Okay.
She did that whole thing about hearing it around Tenafly. She did hear it, but she did not make it up.
Start it, right.
But she brought it onto the show.
Correct.
Well, you certainly could see why Laura Lee Jensen maybe thought that Margaret didn't have her best interests in mind with the casting. All right, so one more piece of gossip. Louis Ruelas released this really strange video where he claimed to own a company called Ruelas. I hope I'm saying it right. And he does this whole speech about it. He cries because he's so grateful, I guess. But he doesn't own the company. He doesn't own it at all. Yeah. Weird, right? And then he posts a picture of his son reading a really strange book. Very strange book.
I was a lost soul, you know. I'm in this parking lot right now. I'm walking into this building, Ruelas, which is right behind me. And it's like, why is it called Ruelala? It's a joke, you know. Nobody knows that. And like, you know, and my last name is Ruelas. And like all these amazing things I've done, you know, like crazy shit, man, that like all of it together does not amount to what you're doing to me and what you're allowing me to have with you, you know, like it's so special. Some people wake up today and feel like I lost $500 million yesterday. And I didn't feel it anywhere in my body. I didn't feel it anywhere in my body. Like I just...
here's little Louis. Definitely the best part of Louis Ruelas. He's so cute. But what bothered me about this is it says little Louis getting the facts. Do some deep diving on that book that he's reading, little Louis. Do some deep diving. Wasn't that fun condensing all that gossip together? It makes a lot more sense when you hear it all together. Well, I wanted to tell you something. You remember how I brought up the gag order and then I brought up the cease and desist with Melissa? Now, you know there's been a lot of talk that Melissa's not going to be invited back next season. Instead of those things being an indicator that Melissa's leaving or going to be fired, I'd say those things are an indicator that she isn't. And that, my friends, is a very cryptic blind. Now let's get into the recap. By the way, you guys, Kim D and David did a live in New York City tonight. Did any of you go? I'm sure it was fun. All right, so let's get into it. We start this at day 2 or 3 or something, but we're midway through the group trip to Dublin, Ireland, thanks to Polly. We are going to a bunch of pubs and the women are drinking and they're pounding Guinness. Do you know what Guinness is? Let me just tell you, Guinness is not like this beer, which is nice and light. It is a dark, creamy, heavy beer, and very few people can stomach Guinness. I mean, more than one is hard. The women are gulping Guinness. They call it mother's milk in Ireland, by the way. Yeah. I went to the Guinness, they have the Guinness place where they show you where it's made and you can drink Guinness on the roof. They didn't do it in the show, but it's fun to go there. But my goodness, drinking that beer, it'll wipe you out. So the two Jens are guzzling the Guinness, and it was so impressive. And by the way, Jen Fessler falls. That was funny. Not really. But someone should have said, "How was your trip?" So we see, oddly in that scene, Danielle and Rachel, who are angry with each other, and Danielle called Rachel a rat, supposedly the worst thing you could call someone in New Jerseyville. Anyway, they're getting along grand, which seems to disturb the women. They definitely want to disrupt that friendship again. The women are ready to party all night, but then they're on the shuttle bus and they go 30 minutes down the windy roads into the dark countryside and they all fall asleep. It would appear we're all getting older now. 13 years in. Well, that's what I'm gonna look like soon. Get ready. I will have one facelift before I go there, though. All right, so then what happens is, what happens? They end up at lunch in the castle. And basically an argument breaks out between Rachel and Danielle about Rachel saying, "Why are you saying I'm a rat? I'm just calling it, as I see it." And Danielle is like, "Okay, well, I think you're a rat." And then Marge jumps in somehow and says, "You're claiming that I have an arsenal. What's that? Like, I've been only nice to you, but now you say I have an arsenal on everybody. What kind of person would say that to me that I've never done anything to?" But we all know Margaret's packing heat. Appreciated Jen Fessler's story on the bus. She's really bringing it. I'm enjoying her greatly. Anyway, Jen tells a story that after 7 years of marriage, her husband cheats on her. Then she gets pissed and cheats on him. Then they separate but don't divorce and meet other people and get in relationships. Then they end up cheating on those other relationships with each other and they get back together again and they've been together for 23 years. Wow. This is a great story though. So then Delores chimes in and talks about how difficult it was with Frank Catania as a young woman with a baby cheating on her, and that she tried to make it work with Frank. And then he said, "I'm sorry, I can't be loyal to you. I can't not cheat on you." So then she left and she grew as a person. Frank, I don't like Frank like you guys do. I'm sorry. Something about him just really bothers me. He's like a baby man. You remember Arnold Schwarzenegger? The little baby man. That's what he reminds me of. Then the shade is real. Teresa calls out that Antonia didn't go to Melania's Sweet 16 party, and this is her response when Rachel Fuda asks if they're, Melissa and Teresa's kids are close. And so, first of all, that was a shady question, and Rachel knew it. I can't believe she didn't get more shit for that, but whatever, missed opportunity. But Teresa kind of going for Antonia wasn't great. I didn't like that. I don't care if it's the truth or honest or what. I have to agree with Melissa on this one. The show is hard enough. You don't need to involve, even though they're older now, you don't need to involve the kids ever. There's too much to go for each other. There's a million things you could say to each other. Call each other ugly. I mean, you wouldn't be wrong because you both bring out the ugliest parts of each other on the inside. Just saying. I do find it odd that Paulie's from Dublin and yet no papers know anything about him from Dublin, Ireland. I know it was like 20 years ago, but I kind of feel like the Irish people love this stuff. Why wouldn't the press dig up his whole family's story? I really wonder. It's so weird because if he's from Dublin especially, it's Gossipville. So I don't know. It's very strange to me. I'll still never understand that. I'm dying to know his Irish story. So then the women go to Powers Court Mall, which is a beautiful mall. It's a completely redone Georgian building with lots of little boutique stores and a central courtyard with a restaurant, which we see. And it's trendy in Ireland. You should go there. Okay, so let me just mention this. Melissa Gorga calls Joe Gorga at some point, and she tells the story about how Teresa drags Antonia a little. And Joe is really kind of calculating on the call. He's just thinking, he's sort of that's terrible, whatever. But what really shocked me was Melissa's I don't think I want to go to the wedding. And Joe's that's exactly what she wants, so she can blame us and make us look bad. But I was wow, we're really calculating. I was how does he even know that? I'd be the furthest thing from my mind. I mean, he's 6 steps ahead. So that was interesting. I was actually kind of disappointed. They missed so many good places to go in Ireland so far. They've done all right ones, but God, there are some great places and they didn't go to any of them. And I think next week's episode, they're going catching the cock. I mean, I don't know. These people, how they spend their time. So they go to dinner at La Vida, which is a restaurant, and the women sit down, and really it's another argument between Rachel Fuda and Danielle over this really silly issue of her calling her a rat. That's still continuing. And then Margaret and Jen get into it, they get bitchy. They're running out of material, obviously. So then Jen Aiden has her big moment at the restaurant, and she's so excited to call Margaret a Boogawolf. And everybody's what the hell is a Boogawolf? And she's it's a very ugly person, something or someone very nasty. And everyone's just that is the lamest put down ever, but okay, we'll let you run with it. And Margaret was well, I'm sorry I called you a drug addict, but you are disheveled, and wouldn't take that part of the dig back. Anyway, it was from March 8th, 2011, so I'm not sure this word should even exist anywhere, and we're certainly not bringing this word back into pop culture. Okay, so let's put this one to bed. For all of our sakes, please don't make memes with Boogawolf in them. Just please. And please don't put a wolf with a booger on it either. Just sidebar. All right, you guys, subscribe, and hit the notification button. I'm going to bed. I hope you enjoyed the recap and the show. We'll talk soon. Tomorrow, I'm going to do another one. I'm doing a Vanderpump gossip dump. I've been collecting all week.